So we're looking at a team that how to defend against the long ball. In my early career, I had a big experience of this playing against Wimbledon. So I'll pretend, for the purpose of this, that this is Wimbledon and this is Manchester United, and I'm playing centre back here. I actually played with Roy Keane in a game at Wimbledon at centre back. And what our tactic initially in the early parts of the matches were to make sure that our two centre forwards, our midfield, our wide players, our wide two, we really wanted to try and push up as far as possible. What Wimbledon would try and do was put the two centre forwards together there. And what we wanted to make sure is, let's say the ball was with the full back over here, the Wimbledon left back, we wanted to try and make sure that he was closed down as quickly as possible, because what we didn't want was him being off here and him being able to move up the pitch, and we're all having to go back, the pumping it farther and farther forward. So we tried to engage as high up the pitch as we possibly could to make sure that when they did play the long balls, let's say he did play this pass in towards this player here, that he was challenging high up the pitch. We always felt that we would be quicker. You know, we were quicker and more mobile defenders than the Wimbledon centre forward. So even if he made a run inside there, we had covering positions on as our second centre forward. Let's say that was Roy going up for the initial header and he lost it. At least we were engaging with them up here. The danger when you're playing against a team that play a long ball is when they get you back to this type of position. And that can happen sometimes when you don't engage early enough. And I would always, particularly I think in the career that we had at United, we would always try and make sure we didn't get into this situation. I'll just move the players up here. Because when you get him, let's say that's the left back and he's getting it in this position here and we're like this. If they're playing those passes from here into the edge of your box, that's where then you really can get little flick-ons from him into there, and it becomes a lot more dangerous. So I think the first principle that we tried to make sure was that we stopped them playing into our box, and we actually went and attacked them up here. Little detail, goalkeeper, let's say it was Hans Seegers at the time, we made sure that one of our forwards, because what they liked to do, Wimbledon, was roll the ball out of the box with a goalkeeper and kick it right on top of this. So we made sure he had to kick it out of his hands. That's again other little things that you try and do to make sure that your life's a lot easier, because you're talking about really physical, competitive players who are difficult to play against in the air. When you get into the final third of the pitch, and there will be times in the game where you can't stop it, stop the cross. Teams that play the long ball usually have good crosses of the ball, they usually have good attackers of the ball in the air, so then that's where your defenders would be in here. So you've got to make sure that these two players, these two double up. So let's say that's the Wimbledon left back, the Wimbledon left winger, and they've got the ball there. That right back there's got to stop the cross. He's got to make sure that those balls don't come into the box. Because if you're playing against a team with a long ball, they'll usually have a better aerial power than you. And if they do get a crossing, you've got to be body to body in here and make sure that you leave as much space for this goalkeeper as possible, so that he can come out. He's the Schmeichel, he's the one that can come out and basically use his hands, he can punch everything clear. So just little things like that when you're playing against a more physical team, is to try and make sure that as early as possible you put pressure on them, because usually they're not dribblers, these types of teams. They're not teams that can run away from you generally too much. It's more a case of you're making sure that you sort of save yourself problems and engage them as early as possible.